Welcome, everyone, to Real Talk Fantasy Baseball. I am Will Power. Looks like we got one viewer in right now. I am waiting on my co-host, John. I think there was a little mix-up with the streaming site that we're using. So if you guys just bear with us just a minute. I'm also trying to go live on Instagram at the same time. All right. Sorry for this, guys. All right. We should be up and rolling soon. Let's see. Anyone watching out there, if you want to put anything in the comments, fantasy baseball, baseball related, whatever you guys want to do. And there is John. What's up, man?
The old technical difficulties, I suppose.
Oh, first podcast of the season, there was bound to be some hiccups kind of, here and there. So
Before we really acknowledge this season, before we do any of this, let's acknowledge one season that's still very much going strong. Will.
Oh my God.
Oh my God is right. We are in the Super Bowl, ladies and gentlemen. Before we go anywhere, your Philadelphia Eagles.
I did watch the game last week, and
champions.
It was pretty incredible, man. Just after the fumble, it just kind of like went all downhill right from there, and it was a great game. Downhill, I guess it depends on what team you're talking about, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. But I guess we're not here to really talk much Eagles football today. You guys ready to talk some fantasy baseball?
Yeah, let's get into fantasy baseball. So, but first, we did take some time off. Had break through the holidays, but Real Talk Fantasy Baseball is back, baby. And I am your host, Will Power. Joining me today, as always, is Jawn Murrow. So, John, how was your off-season break?
Off-season break. Well, we've got a little one. We now have Lucas Branch Murrow has entered the world. So October 16th. So my off-season has been a lot of bottle feeding, diaper changing, sleepless nights. And of course, Eagles football in between. Trying to follow any Phillies rumors I can. Unfortunately, there actually hasn't been any, which is annoying, but we have a lot to talk about on your Dodgers. Baseball in general has seen a lot of moving parts, a lot of new faces, a lot of new teams. Kyle Tucker, I think that's one of the ones, if we talk about highlights, spotlights that we're going to discuss here today on our fantasy draft. So stay tuned for that, by the way.
What that looks like here. One right there. He might have been, he's definitely one of the top transactions throughout the off season right now. We're still waiting on a couple big free agents to sign, though. Alex Bregman hasn't signed yet. Pete Alonso hasn't signed yet. So ADP will definitely change depending on where they will sign. It's kind of assumed that Pete Alonso is either going to go back to the Mets or with the Blue Jays. And with Alex Bregman, there were talks about the Astros being out on him, and then now they're back in on him. I guess because he's a Boras guy, and Scott Boras just wanted way too much money for his client, as he usually does. We've seen that time and time again. You saw that with Bryce Harper, and it really sucks sometimes, because sometimes those guys don't end up signing until after the season even starts, and they don't get enough time in with spring training. They have an extended spring training, so they don't even get they're not even part of the opening day roster. A lot of issues when it comes to stuff like that. But you know what? Money talks, and hopefully someone will offer just a bunch of money, and someone will sign those two top free agents still out there.
I mean, I think that's really what's exciting is this is where we start to see the dominoes fall. The Phillies specifically, have been too quiet. At the beginning, we were talking about trading Bohm, trading Castellanos, maybe Bregman's coming in. We're going to, throw an offer at society. It's been too quiet on the Phillies front, but I think it's just been overall with these, the there's always one free agent that just sits. This year, it seems to be Bregman, who's going to be that guy that waits too long. Last year, Blake Snell. You had mentioned Harper earlier. Harper didn't sign until February 28th, when you think about that. So
that's after catchers and pitchers have already reported, where teams have already had, that camaraderie in the clubhouse for at least a little while, a week, 2 weeks, something like that. When does spring training start? Like mid-February, right?
Pitchers and catchers, they're reporting like February 12th. So it's, even though, like you said, it can throw guys off, especially depending on routines. Pitchers, I think, more are impacted by routines than anybody. I think hitters, you can, I don't want to say hit anywhere, but as far as pitchers go, pitching on the West Coast, East Coast, time zones, programs, routines, everything is totally different. And if you're starting that process late on a different coast, or whatever that looks like, it's different. So
and different ballpark kind of like changes the arsenal also. You see guys that were pitching in Colorado before, and then they end up moving to a different team, like John Gray. He ends up moving over to Texas, and his pitch arsenal changes a little bit. Or even Luis Castillo, that used to pitch for Cincinnati, and then he goes over to Seattle, and then his pitch mix changes a little bit, throwing a lot more sinkers now, not so much on the changeup anymore. So ballpark is big. All right, but let's go ahead and get into the talk of the day. But first, for everyone watching or listening, thank you for joining us today and every Thursday during the regular season and making us your go-to fantasy baseball podcast. Our show is available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. And as always, make sure you hit those like, subscribe, and follow buttons if you haven't already. And on today's lineup, we are going through the first 2 rounds of 2025 ADP, going over some of the overvalued and undervalued players and how ADP differs from our personal rankings. So starting with the first name off the board, Shohei Ohtani, followed by Bobby Witt Jr., then Aaron Judge, then Ellie De La Cruz, number 5, Juan Soto, number 6, Jose Ramirez. So first half of the first round, John, I definitely have some feelings about this draft order. What are your thoughts? Let's start with Shohei Ohtani.
What is there to say about Shohei Ohtani? If you're not taking Shohei Ohtani first overall in your draft, whether he's a cheat code.
We also do have to mention that Yahoo, I believe, is the only site that Shohei Ohtani is available 2 different players. You have to draft the pitcher separate from the batter. Now, ESPN, CBS, they all have Shohei Ohtani as just one player, and you can draft that one player and you can slot him in wherever he's going that week. So that is definitely the big cheat code. Now, if you're only drafting the batter, Shohei Ohtani, are you still drafting Ohtani number 1?
Yeah, dude, he's coming off of a 50-50 season with a team that's gotten better and won the World Series. I don't want to really talk. I think the Dodgers are tired. We don't really have to go down that route. But, if you're not taking Shohei first, what are you doing? 50 home runs, 50 steals. I don't anticipate he's going to do that again. I think he's going to top it.
You think so?
I do. I think
him pitching once a week?
I do. He's a guy that isn't regressing. He just gets better. And until I see any kind of regression, I'm not going to say the I word, but if something drastic happens to him, this guy's going to continue to improve. He's going to be one of the game's best pitchers this year. So in ESPN, I mean, obviously we can say this guy's number 1. I think if we're talking about an argument for Yahoo, if he's still separate, he's not the best pitcher in baseball. He's probably one of the top 10 to 15 you would draft. But he is still the best hitter in baseball. It's a 50-50 season. If you say
with a 300 batting average,
you're drafting a guy simply because they get home runs, but they have a poor batting average, or you're drafting a guy with a good batting average, no pop, but he gets steals. Shohei does everything. Shohei is an action figure. Shohei is an alien. Shohei is the best baseball player that's ever lived. Shohei is better than Babe Ruth. Shohei doesn't deserve to be a Dodger. I'm done getting it, and I will get off of Shohei now, literally and metaphorically.
Well, I definitely agree with you on this one. If we're drafting Ohtani as just the hitter, I'm still going number one for every point that you just went across right there. So moving on to Shohei, after Shohei Ohtani, we
You
have...
still can't get it past them.
I know. Got me a little tongue-tied there.
Yep.
All right. Moving on to number 2 in ADP, Bobby Witt Jr. Now, Bobby Witt Jr. had career season so far. Average exit velocity was up 2 miles per hour. Max exit velo was up 3 miles per hour. Is this guy your number 2?
He's not. I love Bobby Witt Jr. so much. I think he's definitely the best shortstop in baseball, the best infielder in baseball. I also think Juan Soto's 26 years old, going to a new team, going to New York, going to a Mets team that should have been or could have made the World Series. Not should have been, could have made the World Series. And he's entering a lineup that's going to always be competitive, be just as good, if not even a little bit better than Yankees lineup. And I think Juan Soto, that park's going to play well to Juan Soto. It's Juan Soto for me. I think outfielders are tougher to get. I think there's more middle infielders available, elite middle infielders available. I think Bobby Witt Jr. overall is probably a better baseball player. But again, I think just as far as the talent pool and outfielders go, you will talk about the top guys here, but then you just fall off an absolute cliff. And I think that the cliff is more of a gradual, slower downfall on the shortstop infield position versus the outfielders. And that's why I chose Juan Soto.
All right. I feel you on that, especially in a points league, because his plate discipline is just amazing. He's not really a big stolen base guy. Now, he did hit almost 40 home runs in Yankee Stadium last year, and he was pretty close to it in Petco the year before with the Padres. So that is super impressive. For people that don't know, Petco Park is one of the worst ballparks for home run hitters. Lefties, righties, it doesn't matter. And for Juan Soto to hit 35 home runs in Petco, that speaks a lot about his talent, man. And all right, so these next 4 names, I'm just going to read off, and you go ahead and give me your 6 in your order. So next we have Aaron Judge, probably the most prolific power bat in the game today. He's a lock for 50 home runs and double-digit stolen bases each season he's healthy. Then at number 4, we have Ellie De La Cruz. In my opinion, it's way too many ground balls, not enough fly balls, a 31% K percentage, only 25 home runs to go along with it. I don't know. Well, we'll talk about him a little bit later. Number 5, we have Juan Soto, a guy that you just mentioned that you actually have at number 2. High OBP guy, 35 home runs in San Diego, as I mentioned. And number 6, Jose Ramirez. Dude's a beast. Highest max exit velocity of his career this season at 116 miles per hour. So, John, go ahead and give us your 1 through 6. So you have Ohtani and then Soto. Who's your number 3?
Ohtani, Soto. I think, Judge is, you said it on the power. You said, we mentioned about Soto leaving. Soto I don't want to say took over the Bronx last year, but he definitely took a lot of attention away from Judge. Judge is coming back to remind you, he doesn't need Soto to get back to the World Series. So I think Aaron Judge is good for a good 55, 60 home run season here. We know he can hit for average. We know that Yankee Stadium is just a very home run friendly ballpark, and he's the best power hitter in baseball, with ultimately a lineup that has, I would say, gotten a little better, adding Bellinger and, potentially a Bregman, so there's going to be more runs, more opportunities, more RBI. I like Aaron Judge. That would be my number 3. Where are you at on your number 3? Or do you want me to just run through my...
Go ahead and give your 6, and then I'll give my 6,
Yep.
and then I'll put the graphic up on how we differ.
Yep, cool. My number 4, I'm going to go with Bobby Witt, going back to there's more outside talent. You know, I think if I have a chance to get 2 outfielders, I would rather have them. But then there's only so far you can let Bobby Witt slide. And if he's there at 5 or at 4, I should say, give me Bobby Witt at 4. Number 5, I have Mookie Betts. I think Mookie Betts, for some reason, I mean, Mookie Betts probably should be a number 2 or 3 draft pick. For some reason, I just never want to take him 2 or 3. He's just not sexy. He has great seasons. He's just not, you know, he's not even the second or third best player on his team at all the time. So it's there's something exciting about having the guy on the team versus a guy, you know. So I think if that plays into any of it, that doesn't really make much sense. But you know, there's something to it when you have a fantasy baseball roster. You know, Mookie's not getting any younger, but still, with that said, he's an elite World Series champion with the best lineup in baseball. He'll have plenty of opportunities. So that's why he's my 5. And around that, number 6 out, Jose Ramirez. Again, kind of the model of consistency here. Jose Ramirez, every year you can kind of count to be right in that 30-30 conversation, 300. And more than anything, Jose Ramirez just has that extra hustle it factor. He's going to try to squeeze that single into a double. He's going to try to get that double into a triple or, you know, extra runs. You know, if you really watch Jose Ramirez and watch his game, his highlights, you know, you'll see that extra hustle factor. There's certain guys that have that, the Bryce Harpers of the world, you know, the guys that really, you know, Pete Rose, even for an example, has that motor. That does actually equate to more fantasy baseball points. It really does.
Oh yeah, for sure. You're going to ground out a lot more of those those would-be outs, you know, as we've seen so many players just ground out into shortstop and then they end up just like jogging to first, and then the shortstop ends up throwing it away, and then someone picks it up, throws it to first, and then the runner gets out because they're just not hustling. And those actually do count a lot for points, because especially a guy like Jose Ramirez that's going to get on first base, and with his speed, he could easily just steal second. That's you got 1 for the hit, 1 for the single. That's already 2 points, and then you got 1 for the stolen base. You know, that's 3 points in an at bat when he should have gotten out. So actually, he won't get the hit; it'll be an error. But still,
could get a run. Yeah, could get a run.
Get a run. There's multiple opportunities to score points there. All right. So to recap your 6, we have Shohei Ohtani, Juan Soto, Aaron Judge, Bobby Witt, Mookie Betts, and Jose Ramirez coming in at number 6. And I do agree with you, and ADP does also, with Shohei Ohtani being number 1. I think that for all the same reasons that you just said, I don't think that there's any argument here that Shohei Ohtani should be anything other than number 1. Bobby Witt Jr. is the ADP number 2, and he is my number 2 also. I'm looking at his StatCast page, man, and it's just every single year he just keeps on getting better. He just keeps on getting better, dude. And I think that next year the trend is gonna continue. He's gonna hit more home runs. He's gonna get more stolen bases. He is the second fastest player in Major League Baseball, first being Elly De La Cruz.
He batted 332 last year with 32 homers and 109 RBI, and he's freaking 24.
Incredible, man. Incredible. I love me some Bobby Witt Jr. I actually had him in a dynasty league, and I traded him away for Aaron Judge a couple seasons ago. So, and that is actually my number 3 right after Bobby Witt Jr. I have Aaron Judge also because he is that big power guy. I kind of changed my draft strategy a couple seasons ago. It might have actually been last season, where I'm going more for power than more like well-roundedness. I went for well-roundedness just a little too often, and I kept on getting left behind when it came to home runs and RBIs in categories leagues. You know, in points leagues, it doesn't matter. Points are points. And, you know, stolen bases are great, but that's just one category. Stolen bases aren't really going to help you score more runs. You know, you're going to be relying on other teammates for that. But, you know, the guys that hit the home runs, you're already beefing up 4 different categories. You're beefing up your batting average, runs, stolen bases, I mean, not stolen bases. I'm sorry. Runs, RBI, and home runs. So 4 categories just from 1 home run. And that's a recipe for success, in my opinion, which is why I have Aaron Judge number 3, and his old teammate right behind him. I have Juan Soto at number 4, and the biggest reason why I have Juan Soto at number 4 is because he just hit 39 home runs in Yankee Stadium. And if you were to translate that to New York at Citi Field, he would have hit 36. So it's not that much of a downgrade going from one New York stadium to the next New York stadium. And I really feel like he's just going to keep on continuing to hit. He's hitting every ballpark that he's been a part of, with the Nationals, with the Padres, with the Yankees. And I don't think he's going to be stopping anytime soon. Like you mentioned, he's only 26 years old. So the dude still has a lot of gas in the tank, and he hasn't even reached his prime yet, man. We're still going to see Juan Soto get better for the next couple years at least. And after Juan Soto, I have Jose Ramirez. Like you said, the power speed combo. I know you got Mookie Betts at number 5, and the position scarcity is really the one thing that I love about Mookie Betts, but Mookie Betts is getting a little bit older now, and he's not running as much as he used to. He only hit, what was it, like 20 home runs last season. I know he had an injury mid-season. He got hit by a pitch, and he missed about a little less than 2 months of the season. He came back. He was a little bit weak, and then he finished the season strong. But I don't know. I feel like maybe the same thing that you kind of said, like he's getting overshadowed a little bit by the other Dodgers, and he is probably the third best hitter on the team, like you mentioned earlier. And after Jose Ramirez at number 6, I have Gunnar Henderson. And just like Bobby Witt Jr., this guy just keeps on getting better every single year. 37 home runs last season, dude. And 20 plus stolen bases also. And just like I mentioned, he's getting better every year. I wouldn't put it past him that he could hit 40 home runs and steal 30 bases next season if the Orioles decide to send him that often, and yeah, that rounds off my top 6. So to recap, I have Shohei Ohtani number 1, followed by Bobby Witt Jr., then Aaron Judge, Juan Soto, Jose Ramirez, and Gunnar Henderson. All right, all right, now moving on to 6 through 12 in ADP, we have Gunnar Henderson at number 7, Kyle Tucker at 8, Mookie Betts at 9, Fernando Tatis Jr. at 10, Corbin Carroll at 11, and Julio Rodriguez at number 12. So, John, from this list, do you think any of these players are being overvalued or undervalued? Starting with overvalued, which of these players do you think need to be moved down in ADP?
Read off the list for me, please.
All right, let's go. Gunnar Henderson at number 7, Kyle Tucker at number 8, Mookie Betts at number 9, Tatis at 10, Corbin Carroll at 11, and Julio Rodriguez at number 12.
Yeah, I mean, I think Carroll and Rodriguez. I really do think that Corbin Carroll is one of the better players in baseball. I think he just needs to consistently get there. Last year, we can't just pretend the first half or even the first 3 quarters of last year didn't happen. I mean, he finished very strong. We said, all right, there's Corbin Carroll, but it was already September.
Yeah.
So that was strange.
And he was getting drafted in the first round last year also, and everyone was expecting him to have Bobby Witt numbers, and in 2023, when the Diamondbacks made it to the World Series, he had the shoulder thing, and he never really got surgery. He didn't really do much. It was a little physical therapy, and that was kind of like their way of kind of fixing him. But seeing how he played in the first half of last season, man, it just seemed like that shoulder was just not the business, dude. So I don't know, maybe like you were saying, in the last month or 2 of the season, something clicked for him and he just started hitting like, Corbin Carroll did in 2022, and maybe the shoulder just started feeling better all of a sudden.
Yeah. I mean, I heard shoulder, eyesight, whatever it was, something was off. And I think that's, did he figure it out? hopefully, but I taking him in the top 10 or just outside of it, I'm not there yet. I'd probably wait to see, even third round. And if someone takes him before that, I think there's other guys that are less riskier. Now, I think he could be a better reward than those guys. Based on that list that we had just talked about, I mean, I think Gunnar Henderson, you can argue up there with Bobby Witt. You could take him number 3, honestly. He had similar numbers to Bobby Witt and saying that, this is a younger shortstop on one of the better offenses, or should be one of the better offenses in Baltimore in baseball. Maybe. That there should be a lot of opportunity for him too. So I think Gunnar Henderson might even be underrated at 7 there. Kyle Tucker at 8. I mean, I think same thing, contract year, going to the Cubs, love him a lot. I guess, we talked about that fit, but going specifically, let's stop at Kyle Tucker real quick. Does he finish the season in Chicago? Does he re-sign with Chicago? What kind of season are you expecting in Chicago? Because that's a completely different atmosphere. That's a completely different division. That's a completely different everything for Kyle Tucker. And I kind of want to just get your opinion real quick on Tucker before we keep moving on here. But
that's a little hard, man, because moving to Chicago, like, that wind is so sporadic. You never know when the wind is blowing out, which direction it's going to go. Chicago is called the Windy City for a reason, and we just saw in the news just a few months ago that they were having winds over 100 miles an hour. So if that happens in the spring, or if that happens in the fall after the summer, what's going to happen to that baseball? It's going to get manipulated so much. And it helped Cody Bellinger, in his first season with the Cubs, kind of like helped him get back to form. And the whole reason why the Yankees actually gave him another shot is because the ballpark helped him. And Kyle Tucker, I mean, hopefully the same thing will happen, but the dude hits the ball hard. He's a solid big outfielder. I think he's like 6'4", 6'5", something like that, about like 230. So he can definitely hold his own, when it comes to size and strength. And he steals a lot of bases too. He's always getting double-digit stolen bases. So I really like Kyle Tucker. I'm probably one of the high guys on Kyle Tucker. The problem with Kyle Tucker, and it's not even him, it's just there's so many good players that are just available, before him. And I really can't see myself, passing over guys like Juan Soto or Aaron Judge to go and grab a Kyle Tucker. And I wouldn't knock anyone that did. Kyle Tucker, Gunnar Henderson, Bobby Witt Jr. I feel like all 3 of those guys, they all have similar upside, except for Bobby Witt has a little bit more on the speed. Gunnar Henderson might have a little bit more on the pop, but they're all pretty decent power speed options.
So Henderson at 7, Kyle Tucker 8, Mookie Betts 9. I'm good with that too. Fernando Tatis at 10. I love Fernando Tatis. I guess I don't know necessarily I don't trust that the Padres are going to help him the best. There's something's going on in San Diego. There's turmoil there. There's something going on. And I ultimately think that either Tatis is traded or they're going to make some kind of major change. Luis Arias, something's going to happen in that lineup, and I don't think it's going to be good for, the rest of the lineup. So I'm a little hesitant just to see what happens there. So nonetheless, we said Corbin Carroll, and then after that, Julio Rodriguez. I mean, I'm super cautious on Julio Rodriguez. We love the upside. We love the excitement, the electricity, but that Seattle lineup was so bad, historically bad, and he was a huge part of why they were so bad. They're not doing anything to improve it. They're talking about trading for Alec Boehm. I mean, they're not going to sign like a Bregman or anything, so that lineup's not getting much better. So I'm very cautious with Julio Rodriguez, but ultimately, I guess I have a not completely different list, but I have a lot of my 6 through 10 is different. We talked about my Jose Ramirez at 6, but from there, I mean, if we're comparing apples to apples here on a Tatis versus a Jordan Alvarez, Jordan Alvarez is now that guy. Kyle Tucker's not there. Kyle Tucker's gone. So you're losing, that power bat, that RBI chance. But now Jordan Alvarez is going to get, he's going to be the 3-4 hitter and get every opportunity. I mean, I love Jordan Alvarez, DH too. So he's going to get more opportunities to stay healthier. I would rather a Jordan Alvarez definitely over a Tatis right now, Carroll or Rodriguez. Thoughts on that debate real quick?
I really like
of the four
Jordan Alvarez. Also, my only issue with Jordan Alvarez is it seems to be the injury concerns, because this guy hasn't played more than 140 games in any season yet, and he's been in the league for what is it, like 4 or 5 years now?
More than that, I think.
Let me see.
I go 6 or 7.
6 seasons so far. So 6 seasons. When he's on the field, the dude's a beast. He's always hitting for batting average. He's always hitting for power. Let's see. His OPS last season was 959. The season before was 990. The season before was 1,019. So he's always going to be hitting bombs, doubles. He's hitting the gaps. He's a really, really good power hitter. Let me see real quick. So last season, he played 147 games. Back in 2021, he played 144, but most of the time he's missing a lot of time. Both seasons, and he's a DH most of the time. So if he's going to be DHing most of the time, you would expect a guy like that to play 162 games, especially when they go to National League ballparks that have the DH now. It was different a few years ago when the National League didn't have a DH, and they would have to sit their DHs when they go to National League ballparks. But now this guy should be playing every day, but he had a knee thing, and he had a wrist thing and a back thing. It always seems to be a thing with him. And, a lot of people don't know that he was actually in the Dodgers organization years ago. And that's one of the reasons why they actually traded him, is because they kind of saw things in his physical that could potentially be.
Don't even. They lost. That's the one time the Dodgers lost. The one time.
They definitely lost.
I'm not even gonna listen to that.
I think they were just a little scared of what could be, and I don't even know what they got for him, but it definitely wasn't on the level of Jordan Alvarez. Imagine if we had Jordan Alvarez on the Dodgers too. I don't even think they would have gone after Shohei Ohtani if they had Alvarez. I like your subtlety right there. But yeah, I do like Jordan Alvarez. But one thing that kind of like falters him a little bit also is the Astros just don't have the lineup they did a few seasons ago. So the runs are going to be down. The RBIs are going to be down. Not much. He used to be a lock for 200 runs plus RBIs. I think it's probably going to be a little bit less than that now, a sub 200 runs plus RBIs. And, the only guy that's on the team that was on the team when they were, the powerhouse of the AL West is Jose Altuve. And I don't know if anyone knows this yet, but Jose Altuve has actually been talking about moving to left field. So he will gain outfield eligibility in addition to his second base eligibility. So that right there is actually a pretty good reason to draft Jose Altuve a little bit earlier as well. Now, if it happens, yeah. I mean, Bregman would have to get signed for Jose Altuve to actually move over to left field, because there's no point right now. I don't remember who the third baseman is that they were talking about. Someone that they just got in a trade, I believe, that would move over to second base.
Isaac Paredes.
Oh, yes, that's right. So he would move over to second base to make room for Bregman, and Jose Altuve would move to left field. So a lot of moving parts right there, but we'll see if that actually happens. Hopefully it'll happen soon, as we mentioned before. So, all right. So Jordan Alvarez, who did you have after that?
So after Jordan, I mean, eventually got to draft a pitcher. I'm never really a big pitcher first round guy. There's 2 guys I love. There's one guy I'm already married. But Paul Skeens, man. Oh my gosh, do I love me some Paul Skeens.
It's the mustache. It's got to be the mustache.
No, dude, it's the freaking fastball. Paul Skeens is going to go down as one of the best pitchers of all time, ever. So he's my number 8, and Tarek Skubal number 9. I think those two, I think Paul Skeens will win NL Cy Young. I think Tarek Skubal is going to be right there as well in the Cy Young, again, on the AL. I think Tarek Skubal's an absolute dog. These are two guys that, you're going to plug and play and say, these guys are probably going to go 6 innings. Always give me a chance at 10 strikeouts a game. As a top dog, you can't ask for anything more than that in today's game. And there's not too many guys in today's game that can do that. So I think those points there are very valuable. And then I went Gunnar Henderson at 10.
All right. And then, Gunnar Henderson at 10. And then who's your 11 and 12?
11, I did go Kyle Tucker. I think the contract year more than anything. I think he's going to – I truthfully don't know, though. I think things could turn sideways in Chicago quick, and they could trade him. They could flip him and to a team like the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Phillies.
Ooh, imagine him in the Yankees.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't think he's going to stay with the Cubs. So I think, I don't know, the Cubs are going to see how good they are to start the season. If it's not there, they're not going to pay him. They're going to flip him. So yeah. I think Kyle Tucker is going to be an interesting one to see because for so many reasons. But nonetheless, he has to get paid at the end of the season. So he's going to be motivated and excited and all that. And same deal goes for Vlad Guerrero. That's kind of the same concept I was thinking there too, is that, he's turning down alleged 10-year, $400 million contracts right now with the Blue Jays. He's on a contract year. So Vlad Guerrero can definitely he can give you 290 with 40 homers and 130 RBI. Why not? So
yeah, definitely. Especially after the season that he just had, dude. He just had a career year. And honestly, we've been waiting for Vlad to finally have this breakout, and he finally did, And last year he was going mid-second round, I think, something like that, or into the second round. So anyone that drafted Vlad where he was supposed to be drafted at, late second round, you got a steal on that one, dude. He batted over 300, 40 home runs. Dude was a beast last year. All right, so to recap, you had Yordan Alvarez, followed by Paul Skeens, Tarek Skubal, Gunnar Henderson, Kyle Tucker, and Vlad Guerrero Jr. Now mine, I'm going with the guy that you were kind of high on. Your number 5 is my number 7. That's Mookie Betts. And Mookie Betts, I feel like it's kind of just like a poor man's Gunnar Henderson. He has a very similar profile. Gunnar Henderson's going to have a lot more power and a little bit more speed. But don't take anything away from Mookie either, because he just hit 39 home runs in 2023. Last year, he was kind of banged up. He fouled a ball off of his leg, got hit by a pitch. So he missed a couple months of the season. He missed, I believe it was 48 games or something like that. So that's a lot of games to be missing, and when he's on the field, he's a good competitor, just like Gunnar Henderson is. But I feel like Gunnar Henderson just has that like it factor that Mookie kind of used to have, but doesn't really have as much as he did before.
He's just lost in the sauce.
Yeah, basically. I mean, like you said, he's just not sexy anymore compared to guys like Gunnar Henderson that is on an emerging Orioles team, and Jose Ramirez that claimed to be better than Barry Bonds, and Bobby Witt Jr., the star of the Royals, and all of those guys have like similar profiles, power and speed combo. And the next guy too, your boy Kyle Tucker that you were talking about, that was your number 11, is actually my number 8. I believe in Kyle Tucker. I think that he's going to have another monster season. Last year kind of sucked because he fouled the ball off his leg, and at first they were just saying it was a bone bruise, and then it was like 4 weeks have gone by, and we're just like, all right, the bone bruise, where's Kyle Tucker? Why is he still on the injured list if it's just a bruise? And then 6 weeks go by, and then 8 weeks go by, and then 3 months go by, and then finally Kyle Tucker comes back, and just starts raking again. And then they finally give us the news like, oh, it was a fractured his shin. Like, oh, why didn't you tell me that before? Could have tried to figure something else out from my fantasy league. Not that they really care about fantasy league. They just want to protect their investments and all that. But them's the breaks for fantasy managers. But yeah, I love Kyle Tucker. I think he's going to do great things this season. And after Kyle Tucker at number 9, I have Fernando Tatis Jr. I've been hyping up Fernando Tatis Jr. for the past few seasons. I think that he has MVP potential, not in the same league as Shohei Ohtani, unfortunately, because Ohtani is going to be batting and pitching. So I don't think anyone's going to beat that guy for MVP, at least for the next few seasons, until he starts to slow down a little bit. But Fernando Tatis, he has that it factor too. He's really fun to watch. He has his personality that he puts out in the game, and he's just a fun player to watch. In addition to all the production that he does, we just need him to stay healthy, dude. He's gets banged up almost every single season. He did have the shoulder thing when he was a shortstop, and then he had surgery on it, and then they put him in the outfield, and that kind of helped a little bit, but he still has some injury concerns, and that's why he's never really played like a full season. And after Fernando Tatis, I have Yordan Alvarez, who I already talked about earlier, and then Vlad Guerrero Jr., huge power hitter. I think he's going to replicate or at least do something similar to what he did last season, batting over 300 with some big pop. Like you said, it's a contract year for Vlad, and I really like this Toronto lineup. I think Bo Bichette's going to have a turnaround season. They're making moves, man, and they just signed Max Scherzer, I believe, today, and that maybe milk the rest of whatever baseball Max Scherzer has in him, try to at least win that division. And I don't know if that's going to be possible with the Yankees, and then the Rays making moves too, and the Red Sox getting Garrett Crochet. There's a lot of moving parts in the AL East this season, so that's exciting to watch. And number 12, I have Corbin Carroll, and Corbin Carroll I have a little bit low. Not as low as you do, but I have him a little bit low, mainly because of the shoulder concern. I loved what I saw in 2023 until the end of the season when he had the shoulder thing, and it seemed like it was just bothering him too much in the beginning of last season. And it was one of those things that you just hated to see, because he was going in early in the first round last season. It was kind of similar to like Trey Turner a few years ago when he was going early in the first round, and he was like, oh, I'm going to steal 60 bases this year. And then he ended up getting hurt and didn't happen. Just same thing with Corbin Carroll. Got hurt, didn't happen. So that rounds off round 1. Just to recap my 7 through 12, we got Mookie Betts, Kyle Tucker, Fernando Tatis Jr., Yordan Alvarez, Vlad Guerrero Jr., and Corbin Carroll. Going to go ahead and put this graphic up now so everyone can compare. And all right, and I'm going to turn off this banner too so everyone can see. All right, so there is round 1, ADP versus my rankings versus Jawn Murrow's rankings. Your name right there, John?
Yep.
All right, so that was round number 1, and I wanted to go through round 2, but the round number 1 took about 45 minutes, so I think we're going to save round 2 for next week, which is fine because I'll already have all my notes ready, and we'll be able to get through next week, hopefully a little bit quicker than we did this week. All right. Anything else that you wanted to bring up about round 1? Actually, I do have a question for you. I'm going to put this graphic back up. Is there which of these 12 players in round number 1 is your absolute favorite, not named Shohei Ohtani? What guy are you targeting in your drafts?
That's a good question. I mean, I think I will probably end up with one of Soto, Judge, or Witt. If I have one of the first 5 picks, I mean, I think Connor Henderson, is another guy that even if I have like the 7th pick, gun to my head, I still might decide to take him over Jordan. Ultimately, I love Paul Skeens, Tarek Skubal. It's going to be hard to take a pitcher first if I have the 8th pick, but it really depends on the draft itself. I ultimately will tell you that I really do think Soto and Judge are going to keep doing Soto and Judge things, and focusing on outfielders has been always a priority for me because outfielders just seem to fall off such a cliff, and getting good outfielders always seems to make a difference.
All right, let's say points versus categories. Out of all these names, who is your favorite in a points league?
Aaron Judge.
All right, and then categories, who is your favorite in a categories league?
Bobby Witt.
All right, and who is your least favorite in a points league?
Jordan Alvarez, just for games played.
Let's say not just in your personal rankings. Let's say from ADP also, because there's some names on ADP that you don't even have on your top 12. So out of those, the names that you don't have in your top 12, let's say it's Ellie De La Cruz, Corbin Carroll, and Julio Rodriguez. Which one of those are you down on the most? That's
I think
a first round pick.
I think Ellie De La Cruz. I just don't think that's great value. I think you're buying so high on him. I think it's unrealistic to expect him to stay healthy all season. Just the way he plays so hard, he's so fast and aggressive. I just don't want to count on his style to stay healthy. So I think that's kind of unfair to say, but that's just my thought there. So if we start with Ellie De La Cruz, I just think between he's a guy I think will continue to get better over the years with adding more power and adding more consistency with batting average and such like that. But again, he's just so raw. They kind of got to slow him down to stay healthy and really focus on what he needs to versus just trying to be electric at all times. On the ADP side of things too, I really am hammering home Julio Rodriguez. I think he's just a guy I will not draft unless he's in the 4th round. So if we say those 2 specific names of guys I'm probably going to avoid unless they absolutely fall and everyone's thinking the same thing as me.
Yeah, I feel you on most of those. Ellie De La Cruz, I really don't like at number 4, and I don't understand why people are drafting him so high. I understand he had like 60 stolen bases last season? Let me see. 67. Jeez. All right, 67 stolen bases. And that's great. But like I mentioned earlier, that's one category, or if it's in a points league, that's 1 point. So 67 points for the whole season because of those stolen bases, when home runs are worth like 6, because you get the hit, you get the total bases, you get the RBI, you get the run. There's so many other players that are going to hit more than 25 home runs, especially these names right here that you can see in the first round. And dude, this guy hits the ball exceptionally hard. Last year, the average exit velocity was 91.8 miles per hour. The year before was 91.2 miles per hour. Max exit velocity in 2023 was 119.2 miles per hour. That is one of the hardest hit balls in Major League Baseball history since the StatCast era has started. Last season, 114.7 max exit velocity. The expected batting average, 240, is not so bad if the guy's hitting 40 home runs, but he's not. He's hitting the ball on the ground so much that a lot of times he'll get on base just because of how fast he is. He is in the 1 percentile. He is the fastest player in Major League Baseball right now. The sprint speed is just crazy, but K percentage 31.3 last year, 33.7 the year before. Like I mentioned, if you're hitting 40 bombs, like I'm okay with that. But if you're hitting 25 or less and you have a 30% strikeout rate, I don't like that, especially for points leagues, man, because all those strikeouts, they rack up. He had over 200 strikeouts last season. I'm going to verify real quick. Let's see. So he had 218 strikeouts last season. 218 strikeouts. And the dude only had 25 home runs. 36 doubles is great. 10 triples is great. But 25 home runs? I can't take this guy. I can't feel good about taking this guy number 4 overall. You know, at top of the second round, close to the middle of the second round, if he would drop that far, I'd be happy to take Elly De La Cruz, you know, but I feel like he just has so much to learn, and he definitely has time to learn. He's still really young. He has a lot of time to learn. He's 23 years old, but what veterans on the Reds are around to really like give him the guidance? You know, coaching's great. You know, you can get a lot of information from coaches, but when you have that vet, that can actually make the difference sometimes, you know. And I don't know. I feel like Elly De La Cruz, he has gotten better, you know, since his debut in 2023. He's hitting the ball on the ground a little bit less. Let's see. I was really low on this guy because of the ground ball percentage that he had a couple seasons ago. So in 2023, his ground ball percentage was 55.3%. Over half of his bat balls were on the ground. Last season was 47.1. So he fixed that by a solid 8%. Fly ball percentage is good. Line drive percentage is good. And his pull percentage is good. He just needs to stop hitting on the ground so much. More fly balls, Elly De La Cruz. You hit the ball 114 miles an hour and you raise your launch angle 4 degrees, you're going to be hitting 40 home runs easy every season. And you're going to be right up there with Aaron Judge. Just smooth swing, just hitting the ball out. Crack of the bat is just going to sound so different. And all right, man, that's all the time we got for today. We went through round 1 in ADP. My top 12, John's top 12. Any last thoughts you want to mention today, John?
Let's see how the rest of the offseason shakes out. Take all this with a grain of salt, because I think there's 1 to 4 major moves still coming. Yeah, well, there's at least 2. I guess Pete Alonso and Bregman I'll call major moves. So there's at least 2.
I don't really see either one of them as first round picks anyway. So hopefully they'll sign before we go on to round 2, and maybe we'll see some of those names in round 2. All right. So this was Will Power and Jawn Murrow for Real Talk Fantasy Baseball. Signing out. We'll see you guys next week. Oh, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button before you guys bounce out of here. All right. See you guys next week. Peace.
See you.